Honey, I think we should open up our relationship.
What the hell do you mean by that?
Wife of 16 years asked for an open relationship. Nope. So here's what happened 2 weeks ago that completely blew up my life. My wife comes home from work and is acting weird and fidgety. We've been married 16 years, so I know when something's off. She's been on her phone constantly, working late, just a different energy when she walks through the door. The kids were upstairs doing homework when she sits me down and says, "We need to talk about our marriage." Nothing good ever starts with those words, right? She takes this deep breath and goes, "I've been thinking about us opening our relationship." I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" Here we go again. Some woman is basically asking permission to cheat. To me, that's all an open relationship is, just so you can have sex with other people while in a relationship. And she explains how she's developed feelings for someone else and thinks we should explore other relationships while staying married. I asked her who this someone else was. Her face goes red and she can't look at me. "It's your boss, isn't it?" She gets all defensive. "It doesn't matter who it is. This is about ensuring we're both fulfilled." "No, it's about making sure you are fulfilled." But I already knew. She'd been mentioning her boss way too much lately. For the next 2 hours, she's showing me articles on her phone about successful open marriages, talking about boundaries and rules and how lots of couples make this work. The whole time I'm thinking, she's already researched this extensively. This isn't some random idea. This is a calculated proposal. I tell her straight up, I'm not interested in an open marriage. If you want someone else, we should get divorced. This man doesn't sound like he is going to simp. She immediately backtracks. "No, I don't want a divorce. I love you and want our family together." Then I asked the real question. Are you willing to cut all non-work contact with this person? Her response, "That's not fair. It could hurt my career." And there it was. She'd already chosen him over our marriage. Everything else was just her trying to have her cake and eat it too. I told her I needed time to think and went to pack a bag. She followed me around the house crying, "You're overreacting. We can work this out." But I knew better. When someone asks permission to cheat, they've already emotionally checked out. I kissed our kids goodnight, told them I had to go out of town for work, hated lying to them, but what else could I say? I drove to a hotel about 30 minutes away, checked in, and just sat on the bed, trying to process what had just happened. My wife of 16 years wanted to sleep with her boss, and she expected me to be okay with it. The audacity was unbelievable. Around midnight, there was a knock at my door. It was my wife. I don't know how she found me, but there she was, standing there with makeup smeared, crying. "You can't just run away from this. We need to talk." I let her in because I didn't want a scene in the hallway. Big mistake. She launches into this whole speech about how she'd made a mistake bringing this up. Says maybe they could just have an emotional relationship, but stay physically faithful to me. I actually laughed out loud. You're already having an emotional affair. You're asking permission to continue it? She gets angry. I'm being honest instead of just cheating like most people would. The fact that she thought she deserved credit for telling me she wanted to cheat instead of doing it behind my back showed me how far gone she was. We argued for another hour before I told her to leave. So that's where we are now. I'm writing this out in a hotel room in the wee hours of the morning because I can't sleep. Tomorrow, I'm calling a lawyer. First update, 1 week later. Stayed at the hotel for 5 days while figuring out my next moves. The first thing I did was consult a divorce attorney. The best decision I made. She told me to start documenting everything and avoid confronting my wife until I had a clear plan. So that's exactly what I did. I took care of all the financial stuff without making her aware, started a detailed log of every conversation with timestamps, moved back home after 5 days because the kids needed stability. but I made it clear we were separated despite living in the same house. Told the kids' mom and dad were going through a difficult time, but we both loved them. My daughter asked why mom looked upset all the time. Broke my heart to see them confused and scared. My wife kept trying to act normal around the kids, suggesting family movie nights, weekend trips. Everything felt forced and fake. 3 weeks after our original conversation, she comes home looking absolutely destroyed, quiet during dinner, wouldn't make eye contact. After the kids went to bed, I need to tell you something. I lost my job today. My brain couldn't process it at first. What happened? She starts crying. He reported me to HR for inappropriate behavior. Turns out she'd confessed her feelings to her boss, asked him if they could pursue a relationship. His response? He told her it was completely inappropriate and he was committed to his marriage. Then he reported her to human resources. So, my wife had been willing to destroy our 16-year marriage for a man who wasn't even interested. The fantasy was entirely one-sided. She kept saying, I made such a terrible mistake. I realize now what we have is more important, but I could tell she was more devastated about him rejecting her than about potentially losing our marriage. That's when I knew for sure our marriage was over. Even after losing her job and facing divorce, she was still mourning the loss of a relationship that never existed. The next few weeks were brutal. She expected me to comfort her through this crisis she'd created. Started talking about marriage counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild our relationship. But I couldn't shake the feeling she was only saying this because her backup plan had failed. If her boss had been interested, I'm convinced she would have asked for a divorce without hesitation. I went on a planned ski trip with my brother. When I got back, she was furious. You abandoned me when I needed you most. I reminded her we're separated. I'm not responsible for comforting you through the consequences of your choices. Her response, this is exactly the kind of selfish thinking that drove me to look for connection elsewhere. Incredible logic. My failure to support her through the aftermath of her attempted affair somehow justified the original betrayal, but the real bombshell was still coming. Second update, 6 weeks post-confession. Found something that sealed a deal on divorce. My wife left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Notification pops up from some messaging app. My gut told me this was bad news. Opened it up and found weeks of messages between her and her boss, even after getting fired. Screenshots saved to my phone immediately. Here's what I found. Her, I'm so sorry about what happened at work. I never meant to put you in that position. Him, please stop contacting me. This needs to end. Her, I just need you to understand that what I felt was real. We had a connection. Him, I am asking you to respect my marriage and my decision. Do not contact me again. Her, I know you felt it too. That day we worked late on the project, the way you looked at me. Him, I'm blocking this number. Any further contact will be reported to the police. And it went on like that for weeks. She was basically stalking this poor guy while telling me she wanted to save our marriage. When I confronted her that night, she tried to deny it. I showed her the screenshots. Complete breakdown. I know it looks bad, but I was just trying to get closure so I could fully commit to us again. Are you kidding me? You've been harassing this man for weeks while pretending you wanted to work things out with me. That's when she finally admitted the truth. I couldn't just turn off my feelings overnight. Boom, and there it was. Even facing divorce, losing her job, and potentially losing her kids, she was still more invested in chasing a fantasy than fixing reality. I told her I was done and would be filing for divorce. The look of shock on her face was priceless. She genuinely thought I'd wait forever while she sorted out her feelings. You can't be serious. We can work this out. I laid it out clearly. You chose him over our marriage. He rejected you. Now you want me as your consolation prize? That's not happening. She tried every manipulation tactic in the book. What about the kids? I was going through a midlife crisis. I'll do anything to prove I've changed. But I was done listening. I met with my lawyer the next day and started the divorce proceedings. The paperwork was filed within 48 hours. When I told her it was official, she completely lost it. Begging, crying, promising she'd cut all contact with him. A bit late. Said she'd been confused and realized I was the only man she wanted. But here's what she didn't understand. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about her showing me exactly where I ranked in her priorities. She'd been willing to destroy our family for a man who didn't want her. That level of poor judgment and selfishness isn't something you recover from. The divorce proceedings took about 7 months total. More complicated than expected because she kept trying to contest different aspects. But eventually we reached an agreement. I kept the house, we split remaining assets, kids stay with me weekdays and her on weekends. Most importantly, we told the kids the truth. Age-appropriate version, but honest. Mom developed feelings for someone else and we couldn't work through our differences. Hardest conversation of my life, but they deserved honesty. Final update, 8 months post-divorce. Divorce was officially finalized 2 months ago. Both kids are seeing a counselor who specializes in family transitions. They're adjusting better than I expected, honestly. My daughter was initially angry at me for not trying harder to forgive Mom, but over time she started understanding that some actions have permanent consequences. My son was mostly confused, kept asking if there was something he could do to make us love each other again. That absolutely destroyed me, but the counselor helped him understand it wasn't his fault. As for my ex-wife, she spiraled pretty hard for the first few months. Couldn't find work because of the harassment situation at her previous job. Had to move in with her parents at age 38. The guy she was willing to destroy our family for. Never spoke to her again after threatening police involvement. So, she lost her job, her marriage, her financial stability, and her fantasy relationship all in one shot. She eventually found new employment about 4 months ago, some retail management position that pays about half what she was making before. But she seems more stable now and has stopped making comments about reconciliation, which makes co-parenting much easier. The best revenge was simply refusing to be her safety net when her plan imploded. When she expected me to comfort her through losing her job, nope. When she wanted me to pretend her harassment of her boss never happened, nope. When she asked for another chance after proving she couldn't be trusted, nope. I just stopped protecting her from the reality she created, and that was devastating enough. Some people think I was too harsh, that I should have tried marriage counseling or given her another chance. But here's what they don't understand. She'd already shown me who she really was. When faced with the choice between her family and a fantasy, she chose the fantasy. When it didn't work out, she wanted to come back like nothing happened. That's not how real life works. Started therapy myself about 6 months ago to process everything. Incredibly helpful in understanding that her choices were about her character, not my failures as a husband. I'm not dating yet because I want to focus on my kids and my own healing. But I feel optimistic about eventually finding someone who actually wants to be with me. Someone who wouldn't risk everything we'd built together for a workplace crush. My kids see their dad happy and stable, which is worth everything. Key lessons learned. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Document everything with dates and details. Protect your financial interests immediately. Swallow your pride and get professional, legal, and therapeutic guidance. Don't let guilt keep you in situations that damage your well-being. The most important investment is in yourself, your dignity, mental health, and future. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people experience the full weight of their choices. And that's my story. From open marriage requests to harassment allegations to divorce finalization. Not the path I expected my life to take, but definitely the right decision. To anyone going through something similar, document everything, protect yourself, and don't be afraid to choose your own well-being over someone else's poor decisions. You deserve better than being someone's backup plan. I guess one should be careful with these alternative relationship dynamics. They don't always work out.